I've often been accused of being a blind optimist, but objectively speaking, there is a flip side to this story. As most of the people in the room are from the business community, you know far better than I do, where there is a massive demand, there is enormous business opportunities and potential. So these needs which I have described, they are actually business opportunities. Most of the countries in Africa and Asia are not what they were just 20 years ago. Yes, we have problems of corruption, and in some places it remains a major issue. But in most countries, there is open trade, foreign direct investment is on the increase, and the democratic environment within which you can operate is increasing, slowly but surely. So we have also to see that there is potential and opportunity. And frankly, this discussion would not make add much value if we were here to lament about the problems which we are not determined to solve. So we are looking for solutions. With this opening in Africa and Asia and Latin America, many major corporations, including those represented here, I believe, have a growing portion of their portfolio in the global south. Some corporations, such as Cisco, are expanding their operations southward to such an extent that they have located senior managers at in the export zones level, like in Bangalore and Johannesburg. As the business community responds to demand and enters new markets, it seeks partners who know the local conditions well, who are close to the client base, who understand governments, particularly local governments, better and well, and interact with them. It is no surprise that all major corporations now maintain partnerships with either multinational development organizations or bilateral development cooperation agencies. From the flip side, the international development community has come to see global capital as an inevitable part of the development equation. The resources, technology, and growing innovation associated with research and development of multinationals are unparalleled. And their need for market share, a need accelerated by the current global economic crisis and concomitant quest for new markets in emerging economies, has greatly facilitated the need for partnership. So what is fascinating about the engagement between development agencies and global corporations is that this is not a static issue. Years ago, the partnerships were a bit stiff. Development agencies viewed partnerships as a means to corporate sponsorship, while corporations saw the engagement as good public relations. This was a kind of dance of symbiotic manipulation, if I could speak bluntly. Over time, however, corporations and development agencies have become much smarter. I suppose they have understood each other better. The engagement is more sophisticated, more elaborate, more formalized in the emerging cottage industry of corporate social responsibility. But here too, the dance continues. Corporations continue to look at image, development agencies at money. United Nations Habitat's first engagement was in 1998 with Ezra, a Californian-based software provider. They agreed to provide 1,000 cities with their software planning technology through us. And I'm pleased to say that this deal was sealed here in Washington. When I had been invited then to a meeting like this with the International Institute of Surveyors. And Ezra offered their technology, which could really help us in terms of GPS planning quickly. You don't have to spend the whole day in the hot sun anymore now to plan a city. This can be done, using Microsoft technology. So it has become much more friendly. And this company was the first one to come forward and avail towards the technology which we have used in different cities, particularly the small towns which are emerging and growing very fast. The breakthrough that occurred at different times of different industries and agencies took place when corporations and development agencies realized their comparative advantages. For UN Habitat, this has occurred with the partnership we have established with Coca-Cola in India. I would assume that the Coca-Cola representatives are here. They must be here. Coca-Cola is a very interesting company. If I can give you a perspective as an African girl child, this is a company which I can say categorically is known, I think, by everybody in the world. Even when I was a young girl in the 50s in Tanzania, Coca-Cola was on the ground. This is very deep in Africa. So I was very pleased to be able to sign an agreement with Coca-Cola for our work in India. So it's an unusual among multinational corporations in that it works intensively with water, employs larger numbers of semi-skilled laborers, and is decentralized to the point where national affiliates of Coca-Cola enjoy enormous autonomy from headquarters in Atlanta, I understand. UN Habitat moved from trying to source corporate sponsorship at headquarters to working with Coca-Cola in one country, India, on water projects. Simply put, we identified the comparative advantage of Coca-Cola, reviewed our own relative operational strengths, and entered into a joint program for water and sanitation in areas where Coca-Cola is working. The story repeated itself for us in the final service industry. Rather than mobilize money from Bank of America for our own operations, we used funding from other sources to work with Bank of America to increase access to finance for affordable housing in slums in Latin America. We worked with local banks, urban poor organizations, local governments to support the development of housing, then approached Bank of America to take a second loss position on loans made by local banks, conditions upon those banks, dedicating 30% of their portfolio to low-income borrowers. This partnership is actually ongoing, and here, if I'm going to be blunt, it started with Merrill Lynch, and then, as you know, Merrill Lynch is now also Bank of America. But we had been trying to see how do you increase the supply of capital to be able to move to scale in terms of slum upgrading programs in the developing countries. And Merrill Lynch in those days came up, and they were prepared to partner with us to put up, I must say, the word has to be mentioned because the concept is still with us. It was basically a securitization model, but which would not hopefully result into toxic assets. We would be much more responsible in the origination of the actual loans on the ground. So I would really like to say that there is a lot of business out there. Because you see, you have large numbers of people. I talked about the majority of people living in these conditions. So definitely, if you're a business person, you want to be active where the people are. And over time, the purchasing power of the present-day urban poor is improving. If we can improve their living conditions, I'm sure we shall be able to improve their health, their productivity, and other things will fall into place. So we have this cooperation in terms of also actual investment into housing and physical trunk infrastructure in the growing cities of the developing countries.